Heartache, grief, and shock, not only in the hockey world, but across communities in North America, following the news that NHL player Johnny Gaudreau and his younger brother Matthew were killed by an alleged drunk driver. The brothers, 31 and 29, were killed Thursday when they were struck by a vehicle while riding bicycles in South New Jersey.
Welcome to a very somber edition of the Sports Lunatics. I'm Shawn Lavigne in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
And I'm Howie Mooney in Barrie, Ontario.
And we will look back at the life, the career, and the tragedy of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, who tragically passed away this past week. And Howie, I will say, when I received the first initial reports that Johnny Gaudreau had passed away around 7 a.m. Eastern time, I literally could not believe it. And then to find out that his brother Matthew also was killed. And then to find the extent of why they died at the hands of a driver under the influence. And then all the circumstances surrounding why they were even back home in New Jersey as they were supposed to be the groomsmen for their sister's wedding. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. It really shook the hockey world. It shook the sports world that he was only 31. He had a young family. They both, Matthew and Johnny, had young families. It was just heartbreaking. And I'm just curious what your initial reaction was when you found out, how you found out, and just how you were feeling when you heard the news.
Well, Shawnee, Thursday night, I got home and I was scrolling through social media and I looked at Tim Peel's Twitter page. And Tim Peel, of course, as everyone knows, is a former NHL referee. He's still plugged into everything that's going on in the league. And he posted that he had reports from people that he knew in New Jersey that Johnny and Matthew had been hit by a car while they were riding bikes. It was after the rehearsal dinner and the rehearsal for their sister's wedding. And my reaction, I just can't imagine, you know, you're all together with family. You're going to be celebrating this wonderful, wonderful moment and this dream moment, for your sister and for your daughter. And within moments, it turns into the worst nightmare that a family could have, losing a son, losing a brother, losing a father. And Johnny had 2 kids and a third on the way, a wonderful hockey career. And just to have it happen where all your family is kind of congregated and the circumstances under which it all happened. When you hear that the driver of the car that hit them was under the influence of alcohol, he failed a field sobriety test. He was drinking in the car while he was driving. I have so many emotions when I think about that. I mean, I have anger and I have sadness and I have just so much pain emotionally, just thinking about everybody involved and the needless, completely unnecessary loss of life in this situation because of the selfishness of a guy not only drinking before he got in the car, but drinking while he was in the car. It's just terribly, terribly sad. I'm in shock still from the reports that I heard of it.
Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau both played at Boston College for the Eagles in the NCAA. Johnny winning a national championship in his freshman season and was one of the key cogs for that championship season, scoring one of the most beautiful goals you're ever going to see against Ferris State.
Now Ferris State's got to find a way to get a hold of this bouncing puck. Graham knocked it down, couldn't get it. Here's Gaudreau. He can move. Gaudreau in. Gaudreau scores!
Well, Gary, we were talking about Gaudreau, how good a job Ferris State done controlling him. But right there, you see what makes this kid special. He's tiny. He looks about 12 years old, but he's got hands of silk. He's got hockey sense. He sees the ice. Awesome. Right there, he kicks it up with his foot, beats the defenseman right there, and with a stick on his stick, has the strength to throw it up under the bar. Fantastic goal by a great young player.
Johnny Gaudreau is only a freshman out of Carneys Point, New Jersey.
That was the clinching goal for the national championship. ESPN, Gary Thorne, and Barry Melrose on the call. And really that put him in a national spotlight. And Howie, after seeing Johnny Gaudreau taking BC to a national championship and being one of the heroes of that national championship game, you knew this kid was special.
And don't forget, Shawnee, he was a freshman. He was a freshman while this was happening. You know, he was an artist. He was absolutely an artist on the ice. And I say that in the way that he could do a lot of things that very few others could. You know, he was a smaller player, but he could make magic happen. And especially with the rules, you know, after the lockout in 2004, 2005, he, as a smaller player, but a guy who could skate and a guy who could handle the puck and a guy with hands, the doors were wide open for him to be able to be the player that he was, and an amazing player. And, you know, I'm hearing little things here and there, little anecdotes about, you know, he was undersized, as I said, but he, on weigh-ins, so that, you know, NHL scouts wouldn't think that he was too small, he would put pucks in his shorts, you know, to give himself more weight, so that he wouldn't be 130 pounds. He would be a little more, you know, just these little things. But as a player, just an artist on the ice, and tremendous hands. I think of that goal that he scored for Calgary to win that series against the Dallas Stars, from off to the side, very little room to put the puck in the net, and he got it over the goalie. He got it over the Dallas goalie's shoulder, and just a tremendous shot from a horrible angle. And that just shows you the hands that a guy like Johnny Gaudreau had.
And Johnny Hockey's star began to shine all through his NCAA career, capping it off in 2014, becoming the NCAA Men's Ice Hockey Player of the Year, winning the Hobey Baker Award. Jerry York and Greg Brown, the current head coach at BC, held a press conference after hearing the tragic news and reflected on the life of both Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau and their impact on and off the ice.
It was shocking news to us. You know, it was just such a hard reality when you wake up in the morning and hear that. And the biggest thing, and Craig and I have talked about this, that, you know, Johnny is the national news, and, you know, my phone's been ringing all over the Canada, United States this morning, but they're both boys, you know, and they're both so close to our program. So can you imagine Guy and Jane, the parents, one of the youngest daughter, Katie's getting married today, and they were all back to celebrate, and now you lose two sons, so it's almost unimaginable. And you know, we know life is difficult, and this is certainly one of those times, but he was a special Gaudreau connection, like Greg said to us. You know, both amazing players, and people all talk about Johnny as, you know, Olympic player and world class, but just as someone to raise the level of your practice, to be Johnny Hockey, but not wear that label. Well respected by all the students here, the teachers, and by Greg and I. You know, if you ask us to name our favorite players, you know, they've got to be, both boys are going to be among them.
Obviously, they're good hockey players to be here, great hockey players, but when you speak of them and being with them on a daily basis, what were they like as people? What were your favorite things about them as people?
They brought a ton of joy to the rink. They were happy to be there, like truly happy to be there. Big smiles all the time. The things they could do on the ice, well, that's what people who don't know them remember, because they were both magical in their own ways. But everyone just loved having them on the team. They were tremendous teammates. they lit up the room when they came in. So, I don't, we've had lots of brothers at BC, but when you add those two in the room, it's just, everything was amped up. And it carried that joy that they had for life and for being teammates onto the ice, and you could see it by the way they played.
We talked about them being very close. Can you talk about the dynamic between the two of them when they were teammates for that season, how they would interact being on the same team?
Yeah. We had a great team. They would battle each other in practice. They would, they looked out for each other like brothers do. The only thing you can say is their personality and their enthusiasm was truly infectious to the whole team. They could. Johnny was magical on the ice that year. Matty helped really, be a big time player for us after that year, but them together was just just brought a juice. Father Tony talks about bring juice to the locker room. Well, those two guys brought it.
They were together 3 years here, so, like Greg said, Johnny was a magical, but Matty his compete level, and he pushed his brother so much that they had a great bond between them. But I think part of the reason Johnny was so good, not Greg and myself here, but the younger brother pushing him hard like that. So it was a fun dynamic to watch. And when we first came in, I remember Kevin Hayes, and we had a lot of really good players above Kreider and Tommy Cross, and they look at this little kid walking. It looks like he's 14 years old, and they'd heard so much about him, and very few had seen him play. And he didn't want to be the first one in the room. He was never going to be that type of guy. He just kind of came in, sat down, and I'm sure Kevin was looking over. This is the guy that's going to help us win a national title. Yeah, Kevin, he is. So, but he really became close, especially with, I'd say, Kevin Hayes. So that was his go-to, and actually became a dot rat. Spent a lot of weekends with Kevin Sr., the family, and in Dorchester. So he, even though he's a kind of Philly kid, Jersey kid, he became quite a Boston young guy.
One of the takeaways I had from that press conference at Boston College was just how it seemed like the Gaudreau boys were inseparable. They did a lot of things together. They pushed each other. It was a real strong bond that seemed to be infectious, not only throughout the hockey team, but throughout the school and the campus at the time, because they were one of the great hockey programs for years. It still is, but their impact is felt to this day, and it was devastating for that school to hear about the tragic news, because Johnny Gaudreau was one of the greatest players that ever played in the program.
Well, Shawnee, when you think about that whole program, yes, Johnny Gaudreau, Hobey Baker winner, helped them to win a national title. But you look at the school and you look at the legacy that school has with players that have gone through there. And there are so many, but I'm going to name a few: Thatcher Demko, Craig Janney, and Chris Kreider, and Brian Leach. Just so many different guys. Brooks Orpik played there. Corey Schneider, Kevin Stevens played there. The Sweeney brothers played there. Just so many guys. And then you've got the Gaudreau brothers that played there as well, Johnny and Matthew, and just tremendous work ethic between the two of them. And as you heard, they loved playing the game. They enjoyed being at the rink. And I mean, we all say that, we talk about that when we play ourselves, that, how much we love being with the guys and everything, but Johnny Gaudreau had that it factor, and you could see it in the, you look at the highlights when he was playing with Boston College, that winning goal that he scored when they won the national title. It's just spectacular goal, and you can find it all over social media if you want. But it's just a tremendous legacy for the school. And I mean, Johnny Gaudreau, as you said, he's going to be held up now as the member, the guy who was on path to possibly a Hall of Fame career, and just a tremendous player. And as I said before, just an artist on the ice.
Gaudreau would play his first National Hockey League game on April 13th, 2014, and he made an impact immediately against the Vancouver Canucks.
The side, Monahan. Back to Chris Breen. Slams one towards the goal. Tipped in by Johnny Gaudreau. His first NHL game. He's got his first NHL goal, and Calgary's on the board.
John Shorthouse with the call on Rogers Sportsnet. Over the years, Gaudreau became known for his exceptional skill, speed, and playmaking ability. He was an NHL All-Star 7 times. He won the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy in 2017. And in the 2021-22 season, Gaudreau set career highs with 40 goals, 75 assists, and 115 points, solidifying his status as one of the league's top players, finishing 4th for the Hart Trophy as league MVP. Perhaps Gaudreau's greatest moment with the Calgary Flames occurred on May 15, 2022, during the first round of the NHL playoffs, Game 7 against the Dallas Stars, and Johnny Hockey was the hero in overtime.
Has the puck now, down low for Gaudreau to Tkachuk in the corner, back to Johnny Gaudreau. Gaudreau in front, feeds a pass to Lino, stopped by Ottinger, took it up high. Gaudreau scores!
So Howie, talk about his time with the Calgary Flames.
What can you say? Especially you look at that 2021-22 season, and that first line that they had of Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau, and Elias Lindholm. I can't think of a better first line in the entire league. Those three guys, they lit it up, and they were spectacular. As you said, Johnny Gaudreau got Hart Trophy votes that year. Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, just the leader of that team, and basically the de facto captain. When he left that summer, he started the exodus out of Calgary, and then Gaudreau left and went to Columbus, and you saw the whole dismantling of the Calgary lineup. But that's Johnny Gaudreau was he was the guy, the electricity behind or beside Matthew Tkachuk's fire, and that the two of them, the pair of them, just spectacular players together. And I mean, I know for Calgary fans, they would have loved to have seen those two guys stay in the lineup for a lot longer than they did. But just a tremendous pair of players, really, when you think about those Calgary Flames teams.
After spending 9 seasons with the Flames, Johnny Gaudreau became a free agent in July of 2022. Many expected him to sign with a team closer to his hometown in New Jersey, possibly the Flyers, possibly the Devils. However, Johnny Gaudreau shocked the hockey world by signing a 7-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Howie, I remember that, and it was huge news because nobody, and I mean nobody, really had Columbus on the radar for Johnny Gaudreau because, let's be honest, the Blue Jackets' history has not been stellar, to say the least. And for Gaudreau, being an elite NHL player, to go to Columbus was really shocking at the time.
It was an absolute shock, yeah. His hometown was in New Jersey, South Jersey, and just up the road and across the river is Philadelphia. And so many people thought that he was a lock to sign with the Flyers, but things didn't work out that way. It just didn't happen between the Flyers and Gaudreau's camp. And signing in Columbus, and let's face it, he took a pay cut to sign in Columbus, but he did it for his own reasons. He wanted to play in a place where he could raise his family, and as you said, he wanted to play in a market that wasn't hockey crazy. And playing in a Canadian market for 9 years, it can wear on you if you're not used to it, if you're not expecting it. And it's just the truth. You hear that with people that play in Canadian markets. You can't go to the grocery store without being, people all over you. And it is just the way it is. I have a friend who coached in the OHL in Peterborough, and he said being there, he had a hard time just going to the grocery store and not having people all over him. Imagine if you're in a rabid NHL market in Canada, it can't be easy, especially if you prize your privacy. So Gaudreau ended up in Columbus. I don't think it was the first place he wanted to sign. I think that he wanted to go to Philadelphia, and it was his first. I think that would be his first choice. And I think if anybody was talking about it, or if anybody had given him truth serum, he would have preferred to have signed with Philadelphia. And if you know that area, and I've played hockey down there a few times, weekend tournaments and things like that, and South Jersey is Flyers territory. It is. It just is, and they love the Flyers. The Flyers are just over there. I remember we stayed in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, one year for a tournament, and we were a few minutes from Philly. It wasn't far. We were playing the tournament in Philadelphia. The bus ride from the hotel to the arena was not that far. Contrasted with another time that we played in South Jersey. We played in Brick, New Jersey, and we stayed on the Jersey Shore. The drive from the Jersey Shore into Brick was about 45 minutes, and just a difference. But that part of Jersey, that South Jersey section, that's Philadelphia Flyers country. And when you think about Cherry Hill, you think about all the Flyers who lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, while they were playing in Philly. You think of Bobby Clark's his house, his home with the Flyers-shaped pool in the backyard. That's in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is just up the road from Johnny Gaudreau's hometown. And so that is, I'm sure, where Gaudreau wanted to play. He ended up in Columbus. Columbus was thrilled to have him because they weren't a town or a hockey city that was accustomed to attracting big-name free agents. But when they got Johnny Gaudreau, there was a lot of celebration in Columbus, and we see the reaction, of fans in Columbus now to the passing of one of their stars. And they loved Johnny Gaudreau, and that is a fan base that is quite rabid. They love their team, and you can tell by the enthusiasm in the rink during a game, especially when the Blue Jackets score a goal and that cannon goes off. It's pandemonium in there. So, that's how it was. That's how it ended up. And Gaudreau ended up with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Gaudreau was transparent on the decisions why he chose Columbus over being closer to hometown of New Jersey or Philadelphia. Most of it had to do with raising a young family and wanting to do it in a smaller hockey market. And he also saw potential with the Blue Jackets' young roster at the time and believed he could help the team become a contender. Johnny Gaudreau made an instant impact on and off the ice. He became a real fan favorite, and that was echoed following his death and the news of his death, along with his brother Matthew, in Columbus. Fans paying tribute to him outside the arena with flowers and just their memories of Johnny Gaudreau putting his faith into the Blue Jackets organization.
It's tough to hear, man. Not only was Gaudreau a great player, but he represented a lot for a lot of people. I played hockey my whole life. I'm 5'10". He's a smaller guy. He kind of represents working hard really kind of pays off, and really just hard to see, really heartbreaking stuff.
Shock. It's devastating. I can't imagine how his family feels right now.
What did you think when he decided to come to Columbus, Ohio?
Oh, that was really exciting, because there's a whole, everyone's leaving the team, and he shows up, and it's like, it's huge. It's sad, Columbus, this is the second time, now that coming out of the summer, we've had a tragedy going into the season. Johnny was a really special player. It was really important to the city that he chose to come here, and that he wanted to play in Columbus and be here. I think that Columbus has built out their roster with a lot of players that are from here or were drafted by the team. I think he's really the first elite player that chose to be here and wanted to be, that face of the franchise. And just look at him skate. Look at the way that he played the game. He jumped off the ice.
It is shocking, Howie, how snake-bitten this Columbus Blue Jackets organization has been. And, they had a tragedy last year. They've got another tragedy this year. They've had some front office difficulties, but I really feel for the fans of Columbus. Working at NHL radio for as long as I did and hearing from Blue Jacket fans and just how passionate they are. I truly hurt for them after this tragic loss and just the impact Johnny Gaudreau had. He was such a likable individual, and just to see some of the videos of him with kids, and not only his own kids, but just fans, young fans of Columbus and Calgary fans. And the NHL lost an ambassador, I believe. And I think that was echoed in all the social media posts and just how it has resonated throughout sports. And I'm just very sad for his family, just obviously for his sister who was supposed to be married, and just everyone involved. Seems to have impacted everyone today. And, we've talked about previous losses, tragic losses. We go back to Pelle Lindbergh. There have been many others. Tim Horton, where, an individual who was a leader of a club tragically passes away unexpectedly, and just how teams have to deal with that. It's heartbreaking. So, Howie, I'll leave you the floor. Just to sum up, Johnny Gaudreau, your final thoughts on this somber edition of the Sports Lunatics. And this one's a tough one.
It is a tough one, Shawnee. It's really tough, especially when you think of the circumstances. They're in town, as I said, for their sister's wedding. The joy of everybody being together. They just had the rehearsal dinner, and they go from that to mourning the loss of their sons, their brothers, their fathers. It's just terribly, terribly sad, especially when you look at how much love there appeared to be in that family. It was just I'm gonna defer to a guy who is a huge college hockey guy, ESPN guy, John Buchagras. And he posted on Twitter, the video of the goal that Gaudreau scored in the Frozen Four in Boston when he played for Boston College when they won the national championship. And his tweet was, "The definitive Johnny Gaudreau, forever young hockey moment. 12 years ago, he's 18 years old, ices the 2012 NCAA championship game. Comically quick feet, hands, and brain. His comp for me was always Allen Iverson. I covered both in college, impossibly small and skinny. Gaudreau might be 140 pounds here in brackets, he puts, yet dominated the game and had gigantic respect from his peers. Gaudreau was looked at as a freak and a savant who thought and played the game quicker than everyone else because he had to. Look at his face here, pure joy, a unique Christmas decoration who lit up the game whenever he hit the ice. With Johnny Gaudreau, there was always the possibility of a moment like this. An electric star who made the sport better by his art, yet was grounded in his foundational principle. A big, loving family, countless friends is more important than anything. Humility and humanity personified. A son, a brother, a husband, father, and friend for life.
Thank you for listening, everyone. I'm Shawn Lavigne in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
And I'm Howie Mooney in Barrie, Ontario.
Thank you for watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your favorite platform. Please check out thesportslunatics.com, where we have articles and our archive shows. Please subscribe, give us a like. It does help us a lot. Rest in peace, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau.